delivering billions of dollars in cargo over the past 8 days as longshoremen refused to cross the picket lines. Negotiators reached a tentative agreement to end the strike last night, shortly after federal mediators arrived from Washington, D.C. Police say the 3-year-old boy at the center of a New Hampshire child endangerment case has been released from the hospital. His mother, Jessica Linscott, and her boyfriend, Roland Dow, were arrested last week at a Florida theme park and arraigned in New Hampshire on Monday. The boy had been hospitalized for several weeks for brain injuries, bruises, and burns to his wrist and fingers. The mother and her boyfriend said his injuries were self-inflicted. Doctors disagreed. The boy is in state custody. This is IRN, USA News. A study finds breast cancer patients taking the drug tamoxifen can cut their chances of having the disease come back or kill them if they stay on the pills for 10 years instead of 5 years, as doctors recommend now. The results could change treatment, especially for younger women. They are surprised because earlier research suggested that taking the hormone-blocking drug for longer than 5 years might be harmful. In the new study, women who took tamoxifen for 10 years lowered their risk of a recurrence by 25% and of dying of breast cancer by 29% compared to those who took the pills for just 5 years. The study was discussed at a cancer conference in Texas and published in the journal Lancet. U.S. workers were more productive this summer than initially thought while costing their companies less. The Labor Department says productivity grew at an annual rate of 2.9% from July through September. That's the fastest pace in 2 years, and labor costs dropped at a rate of 1.9%. For the latest news and analysis, log on to irnusanews.com.
Just 25 miles from a North Carolina college that censored the phrase Christmas trees before reversing course last week, an elementary school has removed a sentence referring to God from a first grader's poem that was read in honor of her grandfather's military service during Vietnam. Matt Sharp of Alliance Defending Freedom has put officials at West Marion School in the McDowell County School District on notice.
Our schools should encourage the constitutionally protected freedom of every student to express their faith, not try and restrict it. Students should never be censored when speaking about their faith or honoring those who valiantly serve to protect our freedoms. This young girl's poem merely described the historical actions of her grandfather, and the Constitution protects such student expression at school.
That is Matt Sharp of Alliance Defending Freedom. School officials made the young girl leave out this sentence: "He prayed to God for peace. He prayed to God for strength." John Clemens, IRN, USA Radio News.
An Army private charged with sending classified documents to WikiLeaks is returning to a military courtroom near Baltimore in hopes of getting his case dismissed. Private First Class Bradley Manning claims his 9 months in pretrial confinement at the Marine Corps brig in Quantico, Virginia, amounted to illegal punishment. The hearing at Fort Meade resumes today after 6 days of testimony last week. Prosecutors are calling more than a dozen witnesses to counter defense claims that there was no justification for keeping Manning in his cell 23 hours a day, sometimes with no clothes. The government claims the restrictions were to keep the 24-year-old intelligence analyst from hurting or killing himself. An international watchdog group says a new survey shows the countries worst hit by the European financial crisis are also seen as among the most corrupt in the European Union. More now from correspondent Charles de Ledesma.
Transparency International's annual Corruption Perceptions Index awards austerity economies Greece, Italy, Spain and Portugal the lowest scores in Western Europe, where 0 is highly corrupt and 100 is very clean. Greece scored a 36, Italy 42, Portugal 63 and Spain 65. By comparison, Denmark and Finland, economies relatively untouched by the crisis, tie with New Zealand at the top with 90, while Britain gets 74 and the US 73, whereas most corrupt globally are Somalia, North Korea and Afghanistan, all scoring just 8. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
And I'm Mark Thomas. This is IRN, USA Radio News.
Here's your Truth Radio WTGF 90.5 weather bug forecast for the Gulf Coast. For this afternoon, 30% chance of rain, the high about 73. 40% chance of showers and thunderstorms tonight, the low 60 with southeast winds at about 5 miles per hour. 40% chance of showers for tomorrow, the high near 71. Cloudy skies tomorrow night, the low 55. Thanks for listening to Truth Radio WTGF 90.5, your weather source on the Gulf Coast.
You're listening to WTGF 90.5, Milton, Pensacola.
Welcome to another edition of the Issues of Life radio show, brought to you by Milton Dodge, located Highway 90 in Milton, or you can go to their website at miltondodge.com.
Sponsor. Keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life.
Well, we appreciate you tuning in today. John Graves here running the operation. Dewey Mars, your host, and Paul Johnson, your co-host. And we're glad to come to you today on the issues of life. We've got several good things we're going to be talking about today. We're going to start out discussing the matter of trying to remove Christ from public life in every area, from Christmas trees to ornaments to statements, whatever it might be. We're going to talk about that in a little while, and then we're going to talk about this issue of the gun incident with Kansas City, the ball player that shot his girlfriend, killed himself, and of course it was the gun's fault, and we want to be talking about that. I do say that with sarcasm. I hope you picked that up. But we want
to... let's blame inanimate objects for everything in life.
Well, we'll get to that. We're going to get to that. And we're going to be talking about a number of other things. So I'm giving you a heads up so you can call in. You go ahead and get online with us now, and we'll get to you as soon as we can. Call in before somebody else gets ahead of you. We'll be glad to take your comments. That phone number for that...
850-994-3747 or 850-994-0823, or go to our website at truthradiofm.org, and in the bottom right you will see Issues of Life radio show contact in bright neon green, so you definitely can't miss it. And submit your comments or questions there.
And those of you, we got folks listening to us online from various places around the country and around the world, so we invite your call-ins as well. These are very important topics, and so you call in and share with us your thoughts today regarding these matters. I think Paul's got some thoughts today on the matter of this Christmas tree issue, people taking Christ out of Christmas.
We do want to say, on behalf of the show, we do want to say to you all out there, Merry Christmas. Not Happy Holidays, Merry Christmas. But, I mean, even before we came on, in the news segment that was playing before we came on, you know, that they even had something. Now, apparently this university they mentioned censored the term the Christmas tree, and now they're trying to, they took a line out of this girl's poem referring to God.
I think that was that a college or was that a earlier grade school?
No. She was in the 3rd grade, but her school is located not that far from the college that started this movement to censor this issue. So, and I'm almost 30 now. I can remember back years ago when the whole thing started. We were going down the road, and there was a sign on the window that said Merry Xmas. Yeah. They had snowflakes drawn, and you know, and I won't go into everything that my dad said about it because we've only got an hour. but back then, those people that did that, they were on the fringe. They were considered you know, radicals, and you know, people never really took it seriously. But it's pretty. I mean, now it's become an actual movement.
Yeah, now and everything goes that way. It started as a fringe idea and movement. Now it's mainstream.
Yes, sir.
And I can tell you why it's mainstream today. It's because Christians were too busy doing other things and living in pleasure rather than taking the stand and standing for things that we ought to be standing for. Not so much necessarily Christmas. Christmas is not a big deal to me. I'm just one of those things that it never has been. I don't know what Christmas trees have to do with anything anyway. But that's my own idea. But still, the function of taking Christ out of any social life is the real problem.
I mean, the mere fact that they want to take out the CHRIST part.
And what does that spell? It spells Christ.
Exactly.
And Christmas.
And Xmas. It's ridiculous.
Right. Exactly.
And see, for the first time ever, now I read, and I'm gonna get to this article, but I read that for the first time ever, the White House Christmas tree will be called this year a holiday tree.
Yeah.
You know, so
outrageous. See, that's outrageous to me.
It's bizarre. But Ben Stein, and of course I know Ben Stein from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. You know, playing but Ben Stein is a comedian. He's a lecturer. He's one of those. He's a comedian, but he's an intellectual guy. He's got several postgraduate degrees. He's been in movies. He's hosted game shows. But all of his game shows had to do with that intellectual angle to them. They were harder even than Jeopardy. So, and he's been around for a while.
Now he comes on the business network.
Yes, sir. Yeah, he knows. Yeah, like I said, he's got a lot of postgraduate degrees, knows about economics, and he's kind of made a name for himself. And he wrote this article here.
Bueller.
And Bueller.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, because he's kind of got that dry voice, and he, like I said, he made a name for himself because he found a way to use it. And, he's very successful. But I've got I've got an abridged version of the article, and the article reads as follows: I am a Jew, and every one of my ancestors are Jewish, and it doesn't bother me even a little bit when people call those beautiful lit up bejeweled trees Christmas trees. I don't feel threatened. I don't feel discriminated against. That's what they are, Christmas trees. It doesn't bother me a bit when people say to me, Merry Christmas. I don't think they are slighting me or getting ready to put me into a Jewish ghetto. In fact, I kind of like it. It shows that we are all brothers and sisters celebrating this happy time of year. It doesn't bother me at all that there is a manger scene on display at a key intersection near my beach house in Malibu. If people want a crib, it's just as fine with me as a menorah a few hundred yards away. Billy Graham's daughter was interviewed on the Early Show, and Jane Clayson asked her, how could God let something like this happen, in reference to Hurricane Katrina. Anne Graham gave an extremely profound and insightful response. She said, I believe God is deeply saddened by Hurricane Katrina just as we are. But for years we've been telling God to get out of our schools, get out of our government, and get out of our lives. And being the gentleman that God is, He calmly backed away. How can we expect God to give us His blessing and protection if we constantly demand that He leave us alone? In light of recent horrific events such as terrorist attacks and school shootings, I started thinking, maybe we all went the wrong way whenever Madalyn Murray O'Hair demanded that prayer be taken out of schools and someone said that was okay. And then someone demanded that we stop reading the Bible. The same Bible, mind you, that instructs us not to kill and to love our neighbor as ourselves and not to steal. And we said that was okay. Then Dr. Benjamin Spock said that we shouldn't spank our children when they misbehave because it'll warp their personalities and damage their self-esteem. And we said that was okay. Now we're asking ourselves several decades later why our children have no conscience, why they don't care about right from wrong, why it doesn't bother them to kill strangers, their classmates, and themselves. Probably, if we think about it long and hard, we can figure out that we reap what we sow. It's funny how we believe what the newspapers say, but question what the Bible says.
Yeah, that is funny.
It's funny how lewd, crude, vulgar, obscene stories and jokes are discussed freely, but public discussion of God is suppressed in almost every social or conversational situation, particularly in schools and the workplace. Are we laughing yet?
No, not really.
Not really. I don't think it's... he said it's funny, but it's not funny. It's a sad situation that we've come to this place in our society. I remember back 30 years ago, I was saved in 1972, and then in 1978, I started a mission work in New Orleans, and probably in 1980, 81 is when I started traveling pretty extensively out of the country. We went to Mexico to take some Spanish, and then we back and forth a few places, and then ended up going to Honduras, Central America, and we were in and out of there quite a bit. And I noticed in those days just the beginning changes in our country, and the ability to make a comparison with other countries, how they lived and how that they had respect for the United States of America. And worldwide, all over the world, this country has never been known as a Muslim country or a Hindu country or any other. It's been known worldwide as a Christian nation. Not that everybody in the country is Christians, but a large segment of the population claim to be Bible-believing people and Christians. And whether they truly are or not is irrelevant. The country was founded on Christian principles, on biblical principles, and the fact that over the last 50 years, I'll say, that has began to change. It has changed, and to the point now that in 50 short years, it's almost totally changed. We're a new neo-pagan society today rather than a Christian society.
And it is worth noting in other parts of this article, because like I said, I couldn't read the whole article, but he asked the question, Ben Stein asked the question, when did we get the idea that we were going to convert over to a totally atheistic nation?
Yeah.
To where the idea of God was considered inappropriate for public discussion, because and as sad as it is, Dr. Spock, his son committed suicide.
Yeah.
Dr. Spock's son committed suicide, and Madeline Murray O'Hara, of course, she was brutally murdered.
Yeah.
And her body was found several years ago. But listen, the Bible says clearly that there is a way that seemeth right unto a man, but the end thereof are the ways of death.
Exactly. Well, and that's where we are today. We're in a society today that doesn't want anything to do with God. I like Ben Stein's statement about God being a gentleman, and we've wanted him out of our lives, out of our homes, out of our public places, and we've booted him in essence. We've asked him to leave us alone, and a good point. I think that's really what's taking place. And I like the statement about that God was grieved with the destruction as much as anybody else, anybody that lived there, or any people observing it. And that's true everywhere, and that's true with the nation of Israel. If you look, all you got to do is look back at the history of the nation of Israel, and how that when they left God out of their lives, when they took this same path and said, God, we don't want you anymore. We want to do it. We want to. First thing they did, they wanted a king rather than having God's direct rule over them. And then, of course, you look at the history after the kings, when Solomon died, and then what I call the Boam boys, Jeroboam, Rehoboam took over. Rehoboam took over as king. Jeroboam set up his own situation. The kingdom divided, and then you look at the history of those kings, and it gets pretty sordid on after that. Yes. And there's periods of time to where the people chose to go off into idolatry, and God backed off. God is not one to keep you from doing something. He will put roadblocks in the way. He will give warning signs. He will cause there to be the principle of sowing and reaping to take place in the life or of a person or a nation. If we make wrong choices, He will slap the hand, if you will. He will spank the bottom, if you will, and then. But if you can't the individual insist on going, or the country insist on going away from God, they get exactly what they desire.
And when Israel demanded a king, God told Samuel, He said, they're not rejecting you, they're rejecting me.
That's right.
And David was a great king, and they had a handful of good kings.
Yes.
But they had a lot more bad ones than they had good ones.
Exactly. Well, and I don't think the king system was his system to begin with.
Sir.
Now, he allowed it. We understand the Scriptures allowed it, and it's in a great deal or a large respect, it's a foreview. There's things that picture what will take place in the kingdom, the future kingdom, when Christ Himself will rule. It's interesting to me that Christ will rule with a rod of iron. When He comes to set up His kingdom, why doesn't He rule as a benevolent, sweet, kind, and I'm going to use the phrase milquetoast type of person, just, let everybody do their own thing. It's okay. What you believe is okay. What that one believes is okay. What you want to do is okay. What that one wants to do is okay. Why won't He rule that way? Because you can't have order in society without there being some regulations, without there being some structure. And so He'll rule with a rod of iron. He won't be, certain individuals want us to be permissive and allow all kinds of things, but that's not the way it's going to be in the kingdom. But that's going to be the most glorious period of the history of the world, when He sets up His rule and reign upon the earth.
And these days more than ever, people are talking about, well, just do whatever you feel like is right for you. Do what's right for you. Don't let anybody, And I constantly think of the phrase in Judges that's mentioned several times. Everyone did that which was right in their own eyes.
Yeah, every man did that which was right in his own eyes.
And that was the worst time in Jewish history, probably.
Awful things took place.
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's the Issues of Life radio show right here on WTGF, sponsored by Milton Dodge, Highway 90 in Milton, or you can go to miltondodge.com. Join in on the conversation. Area code 850-994-3747 or 850-994-0823. The Issues of Life radio show here on WTGF. Chiropractic care, the natural answer for many people's back, neck pain, and spinal-related injuries. Dr. William Buck Waters has been providing quality chiropractic care to Northwest Florida residents for over 30 years. Dr. Waters is currently accepting new patients in his Pensacola office, which is conveniently located at 1602 North 9th Avenue. For experience you can trust and care you can count on, his office phone number is 435-7777. That's 435-7777.
Culpeper Insurance Agency is a proud sponsor of WTGF Truth Radio 90.5. They are located at 6630 Caroline Street in Milton, and their phone number is 623-3601. Supplying peace of mind for your home, auto, recreational vehicles, and commercial insurance, along with life and health insurance. They are there for your needs. Help Culpeper Insurance support your Christian radio station. Thank them for making WTGF 90.5 possible in your community.
The Little Red Barn, which is located at 4474 Woodbine Road in Pace, is a proud sponsor of the music and programming of WTGF 90.5. Come and enjoy fresh homemade desserts, cakes, and a ton of other desserts in their bakery. They also have soups, salads, and sandwiches featuring premium Boar's Head meats and cheeses. And while you're there, make sure you look at all the gifts and neat stuff that's inside the Little Red Barn. Their phone number is 995-4332. That's the Little Red Barn at 4474 Woodbine Road in Pace. Serving Saturday breakfast 8 a.m. till 10:30 a.m. Also lunch delivery every Monday through Friday 11 a.m. till 2 p.m. at the Little Red Barn. Welcome back to the Issues of Life radio show right here on WTGF 90.5. And if you ever wonder what goes on during the sponsorship breaks, go to YouTube. Because,
am I on YouTube
yes,
saying that?
you are.
Oh.
No. They only hear what goes out in Radio Land. So they get to see how crazy we are during the breaks, but not just...
Well, I mean, you guys have already eaten probably. I'm starving.
No, I only eat once a week, and it passed.
But you're always starving, Paul.
Sounds like my 5-year-old and my 8-year-old. Daddy, I'm hungry.
I do not sound like that at all.
Well, I was just,
I was getting children.
Oh, by the way, I needed to bring something out on for all of our listeners to be aware of about Paul and his. I was picking him up today to come to the broadcast, and he was trying to. Anyway, he was fiddling around with his wheelchair, doing didos in the yard, and he backed into a tree. So I think we need to take him back to wheelchair driving school.
It's true, I backed into a tree, but I got a tree at the end of my ramp. That's not a very good place for it.
Yeah, no, really.
Well, you never hit it before. It was because you were goofing off.
Listen, if anybody out there wants to bring us some lunch, feel free.
Well, listen, we're glad you tuned in today, and we're discussing right at Christmas time here. We're about to enter into, we're already in the Christmas season, and it's a shame that you always got folks around that want to ruin it. And even though Christmas is not one of my favorite holidays, and I know people think I'm an ogre because of that, but the things
not why you're an ogre.
The things that, watch it.
I was going to leave that one alone this time.
All right, you two guys, I'm telling you what, I'm going to have to
You'll be gone. You'll be gone. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I'm going to Belize this next week, and we'll be calling in from there, Lord willing. So I hate to. The real dangerous part is leaving these two guys in charge of this program. When I'm gone, I'm always worried.
But in all seriousness, we're glad that you get to go and set that up, and it'll and of course we'll be talking more about that. But you know, the thing that bothers me about this whole Christmas tree movement, and not that I'm a big advocate of Christmas trees. I mean, I'm not. I mean, some people are decidedly against it. Some people are, you know. I'm just saying that the whole idea that, because again, whether you advocate Christmas trees or not, to call it a holiday tree is an attempt. And see, this is more blatant than a lot of this other stuff. I mean, when you say Merry Xmas, you are blatantly taking out CHRIST.
Yeah, it was like spell check. Where was spell check?
but I mean that to me seems so blatant. It seems so obvious of what you're trying to do.
Yeah. Well, and anything manger scenes, you know, the attack is obviously on Christ. The attack, and I say the attack, the endeavor to try to ignore what the Bible has to say comes out very plain in those type of situations.
Yes.
So it's without question that we're in sad times, you know.
Yes.
And again, not that I'm against Christmas, because it had. I miss the reality of Christmas. You know, I mean, it's a time where Christ's birth is celebrated. How can you have an Xmas tree? How can you have a holiday tree? Didn't you say that this is the first year in the history of our country where where the Christmas tree put up is called a holiday tree?
That's what I read. For the first time, the traditional White House Christmas tree, for the first time, will be called a holiday tree.
Well, I guess that's just another feather in the cap of, or maybe I should say the crown of our president, you know, who seems to be endeavoring to make himself a king. You know, I don't see what he's doing as a whole lot more different than what Morsi's doing in Egypt. Morsi is a little more blatant, taking control in this business of the economy, what's taking place the first of the year. His lack of cooperation to work with Congress, you know, that just ignoring some long-standing tradition.
There seems to be a movement because our government has always been, the founding fathers were sure to put in what we call checks and balances.
Absolutely.
And it's been that way for centuries.
Yes.
And that is slowly being eroded away.
Yeah. We're losing our constitutional freedoms every day, and I've been pondering over this quite a bit lately, as to our responsibility as Christians. I mean, this is a Christian program, this is a Christian station, Christian programming, and our program the Issues of Life is a Christian program. We want to try to put a biblical perspective on current events and issues taking place in life. And I've thought considerably on this matter of what should be our response in these times with things that are going on like they're going on. If we're not careful, we will spend our time dealing with the fruit rather than getting at the root. You know, the root of the issue. Jesus didn't deal with a lot of current issues. Now, he did deal with them when they were brought to him and confronted with them, but he revealed his job, his primary job, and I say job, that's maybe a wrong word to use,
ministry,
but his primary responsibility as he walked the face of the earth was to reveal God. He says, if you see me, you see the Father. And so every action that he performed, every work that he did, he went about doing good and healing all that were oppressed of the devil, so that people would have a picture, if you will, have a living, breathing example of what God is and who God is. And so, as I see it, as Christians, little Christs, if you will, that's what the term originally meant, was used as, our job is to reveal the Lord. And so in every situation that comes up, you know, taking Christ out of Christmas, our job is to take a stand. We're to stand, and we're not to stand belligerently. I've seen so many fundamental Christians, and I consider myself a fundamental Christian. I'm not afraid of the word fundamental. The word fundamental simply means you stand for the fundamentals of the faith. And so, but I've seen so many of us take stands or hold a position in a very unchristian-like manner. And now, again, and I'm probably have been guilty myself of doing so, but I think our job is to reveal God in these times. In these times when people are so adamant about getting God out of society, our job is to make sure that He's revealed. And that's done by our actions, by our words, by our deeds. In every respect, we ought to be promoting Christ in this life.
You know, I'm still on the point of milk toast. What in the world is milk toast?
Milk toast.
Yeah. I'm like, milk toast. I guess that was kind of like the terms like slackers and all that kind of stuff from
sort of.
Back in the day.
Weaklings would be, I guess. I don't
gotcha.
know, just, in a all-pervasive or permissive manner, I guess is the way what I was trying to get across.
Well, because this is the issues of life, and we do try to bring issues of life back to a biblical perspective. I want to read some verses out of Proverbs chapter 1. In Proverbs chapter 1, it says in verse 23, "Turn you at my reproof. Behold, I will pour out my spirit unto you. I will make known my words unto you." And if we refuse that, it says, "Because I have called, and ye have refused. I have stretched out my hand, and no man regarded. But ye have set at naught all my counsel, and with none of my reproof. I will also laugh at your calamity. I will mock when your fear cometh. When your fear cometh as desolation, and your destruction cometh as a whirlwind, when distress and anguish cometh upon you, then shall you call upon me, but I will not answer. They shall seek me early, but they shall not find me. For they hated knowledge, and did not choose the fear of the Lord. They would none of my counsel, they despised all my reproof. Therefore shall they eat of the fruit of their own way, and be filled with the fruit of their own devices. Those are, we talk about God's grace, and God always has grace. There's always mercy. God is long-suffering, but when you constantly reject, there's not a lot He's going to be able to do for you.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And again, back to what John referred to, this term milk toast. I think, and this is kind of my idea. There's a situation that took place in the Bible. In Judges chapter 18, there's a situation of a group of people. They were called the Zidonians, and it says of them that these 5 men departed and came to Laish, and saw the people that were therein, how that they dwelt careless, after the manner of the Zidonians, quiet and secure, and there was no magistrate in the land that might put them to shame in anything, and they were far from the Zidonians, and had no business with any man. And they came unto their brethren Zor and Eshtaol, and it goes on. The story goes on, and really, the story is about these people being defeated, being overthrown by the Danites. It says the Danites, later on down, and it says the Danites came with their weapons of war. Uses this term, they had weapons of war, uses that several times. And they wanted what the Zidonians had, what these people of Laish had. And so they just went and took it. And that's really the situation we're facing in our society today, in the fact of ignoring God. They want God out of their lives. People today want God totally out of their existence, and they want to do their own thing, live their own pleasures, and live their own lifestyles the way they want. They don't want any kind of restrictions, biblical restrictions or otherwise. So they want to live and do their own business, basically. Well, the problem with that is there's always somebody that wants what you have. Again, when I was in Belize the last time, I stayed with a family, a couple there, and they had related to me how that on a news broadcast down there one time, they asked some Belizeans who were caught stealing from some American residents, some expats, and they asked them, why are you stealing from the Americans? They said, well, because they have more stuff. Well, and by the way, there are very strict gun laws in Belize, and we're going to be talking about that in our next segment. We're going to be discussing the incident took place with the football player and the shooting of his girlfriend and himself, and what's come about since that time. since that took place. And we're going to be discussing that a little bit here in the next segment. But I wanted to introduce that with this situation with the Zenonians. They lived quiet and secure. They were careless, it says. In other words, they had there's a false security. And I heard and I'll get to this more in a minute, but I heard a commentator state that all guns ought to be outlawed, and this gentleman, I'm using great restraint here. This individual whose wires in his brain are disconnected. This individual said that anybody caught with a gun, he said all guns ought to be outlawed, and anybody caught with a gun ought to get the death penalty. Now imagine that. That's just totally crazy. I mean, we got some real lunatics on the airwaves today promoting their foolishness for people to have to listen to. And we want to put a biblical perspective on this thing about what's taking place, again, in the matter of trying to take God out of society, as well what's taking place in the matter of these gun situations. Every time somebody does a stupid thing, you got commentators on the air trying to promote gun control.
That's right. It's the Issues of Life radio show, brought to you by Milton Dodge, Highway 90 in Milton. You can go to their website at miltondodge.com. Sponsors for the Issues of Life radio show. Join in on our conversation. 850-994-3747, 850-994-0823, or just go to our website at truthradiofm.org. And also, if you have an iPhone, you can go to our website and listen to the show directly. We have it set up right there on your iPhone, your iPad. So it's a cool new feature that we started. So, Issues of Life radio show right here on WTGF 90.5. Chiropractic care, the natural answer for many people's back, neck pain, and spinal-related injuries. Dr. William Buck Waters has been providing quality chiropractic care to Northwest Florida residents for over 30 years. Dr. Waters is currently accepting new patients in his Pensacola office, which is conveniently located at 1602 North 9th Avenue. For experience you can trust and care you can count on, his office phone number is 435-7777. That's 435-7777.
Culpeper Insurance Agency is a proud sponsor of WTGF Truth Radio 90.5. They are located at 6630 Caroline Street in Milton, and their phone number is 623-3601. Supplying peace of mind for your home, auto, recreational vehicles, and commercial insurance, along with life and health insurance. They are there for your needs. Help Culpeper Insurance support your Christian radio station. Thank them for making WTGF 90.5 possible in your community.
The Little Red Barn, which is located at 4474 Woodbine Road in Pace, is a proud sponsor of the music and programming of WTGF 90.5. Come and enjoy fresh homemade desserts, cakes, and a ton of other desserts in their bakery. They also have soups, salads, and sandwiches featuring premium boar's head meats and cheeses. And while you're there, make sure you look at all the gifts and neat stuff that's inside the Little Red Barn. Their phone number is 995-4332. That's the Little Red Barn at 4474 Woodbine Road in Pace. Serving Saturday breakfast 8 a.m. till 10:30 a.m. Also lunch delivery every Monday through Friday 11 a.m. till 2 p.m. at the Little Red Barn.
In the aftermath of the nearly unfathomable events in Kansas City, that most mindless of sports cliches was heard yet again. Something like this really puts it all in perspective. Well, if so, that sort of perspective has a very short shelf life, since we will inevitably hear about the perspective we have supposedly again regained the next time ugly reality intrudes upon our games. Please, those who need tragedies to continually recalibrate their sense of proportion about sports would seem to have little hope of ever truly achieving perspective. You want some actual perspective on this? Well, a bit of it comes from the Kansas City-based writer Jason Whitlock, with whom I do not always agree, but who today said it so well that we may as well just quote or paraphrase from the end of his article. Our current gun culture, Whitlock wrote, ensures that more and more domestic disputes will end in the ultimate tragedy, and that more convenience store confrontations over loud music coming from a car will leave more teenage boys bloodied and dead. Handguns do not enhance our safety. They exacerbate our flaws, tempt us to escalate arguments, and bait us into embracing confrontation rather than avoiding it. In the coming days, Javon Belcher's actions and their possible connection to football will be analyzed. Who knows? But here, wrote Jason Whitlock, is what I believe. If Javon Belcher didn't possess a gun, he and Cassandra Perkins would both be alive today.
Well, I'm afraid I have to take issue with that statement from Mr. Costas and Jason Whitlock.
Because I've got to keep you. Yeah. But let me say this.
Did you hear "God Bless America" being played in the background at halftime?
Yeah.
It's
kind of ironic.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right, let me say this. There are certainly situations where guns exacerbate a situation. There are certainly situations where guns have made problems where if there had been no gun around, it wouldn't have gotten to that point. But wouldn't that be the fault of the individual who uses the gun?
Well, I mean, in a situation like that, here this guy, was this guy the football player? What was his name?
Javon, yeah.
Is he, what was his position? You know what, anybody know what
he was on the defensive side, middle linebacker. He was a linebacker.
Yeah. Probably weighed about 300-400 pounds. And
yeah.
And he looked like
he was a big boy.
He was an impressive individual as far as his stature. And I would imagine his girlfriend probably weighed out at 120 pounds, maybe 130 pounds at most. You know, she probably weighed less than that.
Because my point is, people exacerbate situations. Because if a situation between you and I escalates and there's no gun around, aren't you going to just use something else? Aren't you going to pick up whatever's nearby?
Well, of course.
I mean, so it's impossible for an inanimate object to exacerbate a situation.
Well, when Cain killed his brother Abel, there wasn't any guns around at that time. That was the first murder, you know. I mean, and it's been going on ever since. You know, people are going to find a way to kill people, regardless. I've heard such ridiculous, and I mentioned this earlier, but I heard such ridiculous statements like that all guns ought to be outlawed. And this was a person that's on the news media. He's over the airwaves making statements like that all guns ought to be outlawed, and anybody caught with a gun after they're outlawed ought to be put to death. Now that's just absolutely ludicrous.
That just shows how intelligent he is too. Because the gun made me do it.
This thing is we've gotten to some real awful extremes. You know, we really have. And
well, just like the coach was trying to tell him when Javon drove up to the Cleveland, Kansas City, facility there, the coach and the general manager and another coach were out there, and they were like, "Look, at that time, the coach did not know about the girlfriend. Just dealing with him as a player, as a friend, as anything." He told him, "Life, we can work anything out. You know, it is not worth that. You know." It was just one of those things that coach said he'll never ever forget.
Yeah.
Because the player kept thanking them for the chance, the opportunity, and then turned around.
Yeah.
You know,
and his mother, Javon's mother, said that the last thing that she saw, and of course she's putting a mother spin on it.
Right.
That her son, and obviously the individual was a disturbed individual. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But she said that after he killed her, he knelt down and kissed his dead girlfriend
and said, "I'm sorry."
Yeah. I mean, this individual obviously was disturbed. Now, Costas, just listening to his statement there, Costas came on the air, and he was, to some degree, defending sports, because there are people who have made comments about football and football's part in a killing like that. Yeah. And so, and I can see his point. I mean, he's defending football to a degree, or I mean, in the act of it. And I say the same thing. I mean, to blame football for this man doing what he did is absolutely foolish. How about all the players for the many years that football's been around, who have been involved in the sport of football, who never done anything like that.
Right.
Well, what it comes back to, if you can find a way to make an inanimate object the culprit, then what it does is it negates personal accountability. It negates the personal accountability of the individual. And it's ludicrous to blame inanimate objects for anything.
Well, you know, that's been going on for a long time, not just blaming inanimate objects, but blaming other people. You know, Nero blamed the Christians for the burning of Rome, and therefore gave him an excuse to go out and kill Christians. And so there's this idea of blaming somebody else has been in effect since the Garden of Eden. When God confronted Adam about his, he began confronting the individuals, those involved in the fall from the garden. He confronted them, and in Genesis chapter 3, he said, "Who told thee that thou wast naked? And hast thou eaten of the tree whereof I commanded thee that thou shouldst not eat?" And the man said, "The woman whom thou gavest me." Oh, I kind of like that part. No.
I was like, you're on your own, sir.
Whom thou gavest me to be with me, gave me of the tree, and I did eat. And the Lord said unto the woman, "What is that thou hast done?" And the woman said, "The serpent beguiled me, and I did eat." And so it goes on. You know, I mean, that's a part of the element of sin. And as long as sin's in the world, there's going to be always this tendency to pass the buck. I'll say this. My wife and I was reading in Psalm 119 today in our devotions, and it came to me. The section we were reading it dealt with pride, and it was talking about the wicked who, in their pride, persecute the righteous. And it's a couple of different verses that had references to that. And it came to me that the heart of sin is pride. There was no sin in the world until it was first found in Satan, and his sin was pride. He lifted up himself. He said, "I will be like the Most High. I will." He used the personal pronoun "I" 5 times in that text in the book of, I believe it's in Ezekiel. It's either Ezekiel 28 or Isaiah 14, I forget which. But he referred to himself, and pride is the very heart of sin. And so in the situations that we're discussing here today, in regards to trying to remove God from society, gun control situations that want to take guns completely out of society, the element, the heart of this whole thing is pride. And the way to deal with situations is not to try to control inanimate objects or to pass the buck and blame someone else, something, or someone. The way to control situations is through humility, humbling ourselves before the mighty hand of God, and says He'll lift you up. So again, we're dealing with situations of passing the buck or blaming. That's a condition of our society, wouldn't you say?
Oh, certainly. I mean, it's always some organization's fault or some. It's just. And Costas, and I love football. I mean, I've been watching Bob Costas for 25, 30 years, and Costas is a big deal. And Costas came out clearly and supported this guy's article. And see, I've read some of his. See, when these sports writers start thinking that because they have some readership, they can comment on social issues. I mean, he has a right to have his opinion, like anybody else.
Everybody's right to their own opinion, sure.
But. He probably needs to stick to. Analyzing sports.
Yeah. Well, see, but that's I think that's where the issues are taking place today. People are injecting themselves and their opinions, and not just, I don't want to say just injecting themselves in society, but forcing their opinions on others. He used a platform,
a national platform, that we were there for the game.
Yeah.
And granted, I know Bob Costas does his little thing during halftime and sometimes even before the game, and I usually tune it out. But he had a platform, and he could have used it in the right way.
Yeah. Well, see, I don't think that his doing that, I think, was even out of the what I want to say, in his position and NBC's position in that, I think he was out of order. So,
and see, yes, excuse me, man, I need one of those buttons that you got over there. But the first part of before he actually read the article, he made it clear that he supported the article. He made it clear that you know, this guy said it so. He said to the effect, this guy said it so well that we'll just read the end of his article.
Well, and I think on that note, we're going to take a break, and then when we come back, I think we got a clip from the Jason Whitlock, who made the statement that gave Costas his ammunition.
Yeah, we have a podcast that he called into Roland Martin, CNN reporter, and describing his thoughts on that. It's the Issues of Life radio show right here on WTGF 90.5, brought to you by Milton Dodge, Highway 90 in Milton. Visit their website, miltondodge.com. Join in the conversation, 994-3747,